The night is quiet, too quiet. You sit there, lights dimmed, the blue glow of your screen turning the walls into flat, watchful faces. Air vents breathe a low, mechanical hush. Somewhere in the guts of the building, a pipe ticks as it cools, like a metronome for nerves. You tell yourself routine is safety. Same desk, same hallway, same hum, but safety is only an illusion, and illusions tear easily at tukagadaishu. These accounts are real, taken from people who thought they were alone until the building answered back, one footfall at a time. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Tell me your location and what time you're watching. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background. And let these true stories pull you into the night. You're the last one on the floor. The office at this hour becomes a museum of sleep. Chairs tucked in, screens black, a jacket slumped over a cubicle wall like someone stepped out of themselves and forgot to come back. The carpet smells faintly of cleaner and warm dust. A vending machine at the corridor bend purrs and clicks, lighting a square of floor with the glow of trapped candy. You pack away the last file, slide your badge across your belt loop, and check. The building app on your phone. All exterior doors locked. Cleaning crew signed off at 11:42. Security on patrol 2 floors down. Normal. Illusion. You hear it midway down the hall. A single step that isn't yours. It's soft, rubber on carpet, followed by another. A slow, measured twin that doesn't match your rhythm. Disturbance. You hold still, letting the air settle in your ears. The vending machine light flickers once, enough to lay a long bar of shadow across the corridor. You tell yourself it's the AC flexing the ceiling tiles. Evidence argues otherwise. The motion-activated lights at the far end blink on. One pool, then the next, progressing toward you with the pace of footsteps you can't see. Anyone there? Your voice dies in the fabric of empty cubicles. You raise your phone and open the security camera feed the building shares with overnight staff. Grainy, black and white squares pop up. Elevator lobby, emergency stairwell, your corridor. On your screen, the hall looks vacant. On the carpet, you hear the 3rd and 4th step. Closer now, the quiet weight of a person who knows how much they weigh. Evidence. You call the guard. No answer. You type, hearing footsteps on 12. Please confirm patrol location. The typing sound feels too loud. You take a gentle step, and the carpet presses back, springy. The motion lights behind you click off. Ahead, they glow in a tidy runway, as if something just moved through and cleared a path. Suspicion blooms like cold water down your back. The badge on your belt taps your hip with each slower, deliberate pace. You test a theory. You take a step and stop. From somewhere just out of sight, another footstep lands a heartbeat later. Echo? You step twice in quick succession. The answering steps don't mimic you. They lag, like someone who wants you to think you're hearing yourself. You lean into the corridor. The smell shifts. Less of cleaner, more of damp carpet, like a spill that never dried. That detail tilts everything. You glance at the ceiling. The tiles are smooth, unbroken. The light above the copy room flickers again, the ballast buzzing, like a trapped insect. You angle your phone camera toward the reflection in the copy room window. Night beyond the glass, a ghost of the hallway and your own silhouette. The reflection shows a long strip of office behind you, empty until it isn't. For the briefest split second, the reflection stutters, as if the feed were buffering, and a second, darker shape stands where the hallway angles, like a smudge, left by a person. You turn. No one. Dread hook. You exhale and start walking, not running. Running invites pursuit. Your shoes barely whisper. The steps behind you resume, deliberate as counting. You pass the kitchenette. A single mug waits in. The drying rack, a ring of tea dried to brown. You pass the printer. Its ready light blinks with the patience of a metronome. The vending machine's fluorescent tube paints your hand the color of aquarium water when you trail your fingers against the wall to steady yourself. You tell yourself you'll round the corner and see the guard. Illusion. The elevator dings. Not your floor. 2 down, if the tinny chime you've learned by accident means anything. Disturbance. The camera feed shows the empty lobby outside the elevator. doors opening to spill no one. Then a line appears on the bottom of your app. Emergency stairwell, door open 00.02. The fire door sighs somewhere to your left. You push the bar and step into concrete and colder air. The stairwell smells like metal and old rain. The acoustics are cruel. Your breath sounds too loud, your steps too bright. You descend one flight and stop dead. Evidence. There's a wet footprint on the step below yours, toe pointing up toward you, the shape of a heel smeared like someone turned fast. You angle your phone. The camera does what cameras do. Records an immaculate empty staircase. Hello? The word bounces, comes back thin. You take out your badge to key the next floor door. Before you touch it, the door on the floor above you thumps softly, then thumps again, like someone nudging it with a shoulder. You don't want to go up. You go up. On 12.5, because it feels like that's where you are when fear plays with numbers. The emergency light hums, a steady, low throat tone. You push the bar and slip back onto your corridor. It's colder now. The motion lights ahead are off. Behind, they glow. That's wrong. The system is supposed to lead you, not chase you. You set your jaw and walk forward. The lights ahead blink to life a split second before you enter them, as if clearing a path again. You grip your phone tighter. The camera feed shows you from the ceiling's perspective as a little, moving white shape. Over your shoulder, nothing. In your ears, the pace of footsteps ticking closer, a metronome for courage you don't have. At the copy room door, you pause. The glass shows you the vending machine glow, the pale rectangle of the exit sign. And there, a new detail. The faintest fogging on the glass at shoulder height, a thumbprint streak half faded. You haven't touched this door in hours. You push it open anyway. Paper smell. The copier sits asleep, its screen dark. You can hear the building's lungs again, the vents, the distant elevator's counterweight. The footsteps are quieter with the carpet muffled by the humming machine. You hold still until you can't. The copier wakes on its own, screen blinking to a ready state, the motor stirring. A sheet feeds, blank, then another, blank, then a third, and on that one, a fingerprint appears in toner near the corner as if the machine had printed something it shouldn't know, the smear you saw on the glass. Evidence has terrible timing. You back away, angle your phone to text the guard again, and the vibration in your palm buzzes. On 10. Just checked 12 cam. Nobody there. You stare at the words, then at the monitor feed, then at the hallway where breath fogs in air that shouldn't be that cold. The camera's microphone picks up the soft tempo of steps you hear. The video shows nothing. The vending machine light flickers once more and dies. The corridor falls into a deeper dark. The motion lights don't catch. The copy room's sleep timer cancels and the screen dims. Escalation becomes the only choice left. You have to cross the black to the stairwell door. You count down in your head, 3, 2, 1, and step into the dark. The carpet swallows your sound. The footsteps behind you don't. They land, crisp, 5 paces back. You hate that you know it's 5. A whisper of cold peels along your neck like a draft through a keyhole. You reach for the panic bar and it clicks under your palm. The stairwell opens to that same old rain smell. You step through and the door doesn't quite close. It stops on the latch like someone's hand is in the way. You pull it. It doesn't give. You pull harder, pulse in your throat. It shuts, finally, with a hollow clong that echoes down the concrete. You stand on the stair, breathing, counting. 1, 2, 3. The landing light flickers and steadies. You look down. Fresh, wet marks stipple the next step. Tiny droplets, like someone shook off rain. You didn't. You look up. The light on the landing above goes out. The elevator dings again, closer. You push through 3 flights in a blur of metal handrail and concrete and breath. When you burst into the lobby, security is there at the desk, a small TV flooding his face with blue. He looks up, puzzled. "You all right?" he asks. His radio crackles with a patrolling voice. Clear on 10, clear on 11. 12 is wait. Silence. You tell him what you heard. He swivels the big monitor and rewinds the thready hallway camera. Grain stutters into reverse, then plays forward at normal speed. There you are, Tiny, a pale shape moving carefully, no one behind you. He taps the audio waveform and turns the speaker up. Footsteps. Yours and the other set. Offset, measured, patient. He watches you watching yourself. Strange echo, he says, as if the building has a throat that could echo with intention. He pauses, frames a moment where you stop, where your head tips like you're listening to the same thing you're listening to now. And this, he asks. On the monitor, in that paused second, the reflection in the copy room glass shows you, and shows a second shape at the bend in the corridor. No features, only a person-sized bruise in the light. It lasts for a single frame. He scrolls frame by frame, and it's gone. He leans back uneasy now. Probably artifacting, he says, and it sounds like a prayer. By morning, your building app pings with a log. Stairwell door 12, opened 02.170219. Copy room feed, paper pulled 02.21. You didn't touch the printer. The third page sits on your desk where you dropped it. Blank, except for the faint toner smear of a thumbprint you didn't make. You hold it to the light. The smudge is too long for your thumb, too narrow for your palm. The guard texts a shrug, emoji, and glitch. Glitches don't leave damp footprints that dry into the shape of someone who waits. You tell yourself you won't take another night shift. Illusion. When the schedule goes out, your name is there on the graveyard line. And sometime around 2 a.m., when the vending machine purrs and the copy room hums and the hallway lights march toward you in neat, obedient squares, will you finally look up at the glass and see what only the camera almost caught? Or will you keep walking, counting steps, pretending the second set has always been yours? The warehouse at night is a different planet. In the day, it's forklifts and voices and the clatter of pallets. After midnight, it's air moving through ribs of steel, sodium lamps trembling with a faint electrical buzz, and your footsteps deciding how big the place is. The building breathes through the loading docks. Stacked boxes make canyons down long aisles, each with a number stenciled at the end. Your scanner chirps when you squeeze the trigger, a small digital bird in a space big, enough to swallow weather. You tell yourself this is just overtime, extra pay, easy counts, illusion. The first wrongness is small. An end cap lamp stutters and steadies, and in that 3-blink flicker something dark crosses the far aisle. Not a person, you tell yourself. It could be a swing of the chain from the overhead door or a dust shadow when the HVAC kicks. Disturbance. You stand still long enough to hear the roof creak, long enough to feel the draft slide past your sleeves. Your scanner's screen paints your face blue. Your breath fogs just barely. Too cold for June. You push the pallet jack, wheel squeaking, and nose into aisle 17. The smell here is cardboard and eucalyptus cleaner, the kind the day crew overuses to prove they were here. Your beam catches the edges of shrink wrap like fish scales. You scan. Bip. The app logs a double-wide pallet stacked with paper towel packs. You tug out a case to verify counts. When you slot it back, something 2 aisles over answers your bip with its own. Same pitch, same chip, a scanner you didn't fire. Evidence. Anybody else on inventory? You call, voice too small for the rafters. No reply, but the house speaker pops quietly as if the PA system is clearing its throat. After a long nap, you listen to the entire building for a full 10 seconds. Your heart makes more sound than anything. You roll forward. Your wheels leave shiny tracks in a thin film you only notice because the light skims the polished concrete just right. Moisture, maybe from a dock door left cracked. A second track appears alongside yours in the dust haze, a twin ribbon pressed into the floor as if another jack was pushed next to yours and then lifted. The parallel marks taper out mid-aisle. You put your hand on the metal handle and it's colder than the air. Dread hook. You shake it off and keep moving. The counting is supposed to anchor you. 2, 4, 6. You whisper, writing order onto stacks of shampoo and sacks of rice. A forklift sits in the cross aisle like an animal at rest, charger light blinking a slow pulse. You brush the seat with the back of your hand. Warm. You don't want it to be. Maybe maintenance just moved it, you tell the empty space. Illusion. Overhead, motion sensors pop lamps alive one by one. The light travels in a smooth wave down aisle 21, as if someone walked beneath them in patient strides. Disturbance. You angle your head to catch the edge of that aisle in your peripheral. A faint plastic crinkle rides the air, the sound bubble. Rap makes when weight shifts. You push your jack into the intersection and look both ways like there's traffic. Between pallets of holiday decorations and lawn fertilizer, a human-height slice of dark pulls back out of sight. Your throat goes dry enough to make swallowing loud. You step into the aisle. The air here smells different, like damp cardboard. A single roll of packing tape lies on the floor, unwound tail angling toward the shelf as if someone dragged it while walking. Your scanner beeps softly in your palm. The screen updates with a timestamp and a line you didn't trigger. A21-03. Scanned 01.12 by RF3 crew. Your device is RF7. Evidence. You toggle to the device list. RF3 is checked out to nobody. It should be on a cradle charging near receiving. You stand there with the tape under your boot until the PA pops again, and then, soft as breath, a whisper of a tune slips from a ceiling speaker. Not a song, more like someone blowing across a bottle. It moves down the aisle away from you, a pale, hollow note that rises and falls with your pulse. You walk toward it because you can't not. The motion. Lights ahead wake a beat late, making afterimages in your vision. You cut left at the end cap and run parallel in aisle 22, hoping to flank what you refuse to name. When you reach the midpoint, you stop and listen. On the other side of the shelves, cardboard whispers against cardboard, slow and careful, the sound of fingers testing rap. You crouch to look through the lowest shelf gap where the pallet slats leave a window. On the other side, something passes. Only shins and the hem of dark pants, a smudge of movement that doesn't align with the light overhead. Your breath catches. You stand too fast and bump your head on a steel crossbar. The thud echoes up, to the roof. The sound behind the shelf pauses, like you've been heard. Hey, you say, because human voices are supposed to fix human problems. We're closed. Who's there? Silence as an answer. Then your scanner chirps again without your finger on the trigger. A new line scrolls. RF3, A2105, A2106, A2107. And the entries tick like a second hand. The invisible scan walks down the aisle away from you one bin location at a time. Evidence keeps its own log. You pull your phone and call the guard. It rings. He answers in a voice smudged with coffee. You seeing anybody on your monitors in 2122? You ask. He clicks keys. Negative. Just you, he says. I see RF7 lit. That's you, right? You tell him about the phantom entries. Could be a ghost device waking up, he says, like the phrase ghost device shouldn't belong to a real job. I'll send Marcus to receiving to check the cradles. The line crackles. Stay put. You won't. You cut through the next break in the shelves and find yourself in aisle 21 again. Shrink-wrapped pallets gleam like huge candy. A strip of plastic dangles and shivers as if someone just let go. The air is cooler here, like the AC. Vent above is open wider than the others. You rub your arms until gooseflesh is just a sensation, not superstition. At the far end, the loading dock's rectangle glows a little whiter. The overhead door is shut but not sealed. A knife-thin seam of outside sneaks in along the bottom, breathing grit onto the floor in the wind's handwriting. There's a blotch. On that grit, a dark, wet footprint pointing inward. Bare, not booted. You don't move for a small lifetime. When you do, it's only to raise your scanner and aim the beam as if a red line can pin reality down. The footprint glistens and gives up nothing. You hear a squeal of rubber behind you, the sound your pallet jack makes when you pivot it tight, but when you turn, your jack is where you left it, handle angled neatly against a box of bleach. The air behind it is moving like heat above asphalt, though the temperature is wrong for that trick. Disturbance folds into escalation before you can name the seam. Your phone buzzes, a text from the guard. Marcus says RF3 is in the cradle, power light off. He unplugged and plugged back in. Still off. You alone on floor. You type, delete, type again. There's movement in 21, and wet prints by the dock. 3 dots appear, then disappear, as if the building swallowed his reply. Something rolls. not your jack. Farther, heavier. The forklift at the cross aisle yawns awake. Its small blue safety light spins and paints a cold disk across the concrete that crawls along the floor like a moon. The engine doesn't start. Only the warning systems wake, as if someone sat on the seat. You approach with hands up like you're negotiating with a dog. The seat is pressed down a fraction. When you lean close, your breath fogs the vinyl. Then the blue light pivots and draws a slow circle not on the floor, but across the vertical. Faces of boxes, as if following a shape taller than you that just walked between pallets. Evidence doesn't care about bravado. You step back and your heel finds the loop of packing tape. It sticks and whispers and unspools as you drag it, leaving a translucent trail. You hear the faintest laugh. No breath, no throat, just the shape of amusement drawn in air. It might be ducting. It might be memory. You've been here too many nights. On the PA, the bottle note returns, closer now, as if someone pressed their lips to the nearest speaker. The note bends and breaks into a tiny hiss that could be shh. You obey by accident, breath shallow, shoulders high. The blue light slides across your boots and keeps going. Smooth, deliberate, a tracking halo that suggests a presence has crossed your path and is headed for the dock. You follow because you're both curious and stupid the way tired people are. At the dock, the seam of outside hums with night insects. You kneel and lift the bottom edge of the door just enough to look into the gap. Cool air ghosts your face. The wet footprint is drying into a smudge with lines where dust settled into skin. Another partial print appears beside it, fainter, like whoever made it is losing their outline. You watch the space because you need one thing to be simple and visible. That's when the chains on the door's counterweight sway. They clink once, twice, then stop mid-swing as if pinched. Warehouse. The radio on your belt coughs to life. You forgot you clipped it there. You still in 21? The guard asks. Your voice surprises you. At the dock, you say. Someone's playing with the lights. He mutters to someone off mic. We'll come to you. You listen to boots. Thud on distant concrete through the radio. Never here. Always somewhere else. While you wait, you look down the long lanes you've already counted. Your eye catches a wrong geometry. In aisle 20, a stack of boxes leans, not dangerously, just enough to show a sliver of black between columns where there shouldn't be any space. You step toward it. The black sliver shifts to keep its edge turned to you, like a fish in current. You stop. It stops. You step left. It counters. Your skin crawls with the knowledge that something is adjusting to your gaze, preferring angles, where it remains edge-on, invisible. The blue light from the forklift lifts and draws a line across that edge, just for a second, revealing a thin slice of leg and elbow with nothing between, like a paper cutout walking sideways through the world. Then the light spins away, and there's only boxes and the smell of eucalyptus again. Dreadhook. The guard and Marcus arrive out of sync with their sound, like the speakers in a cheap theater. They round the end cap, flashlights busy, jokes, loaded to make it all less. You good? The guard asks, too loud. You gesture at the prints. They're dull now, part of the floor. We had RF3 scanning, you say. Marcus snorts. RF3's dead, he says, then sees your screen and stops. The device log shows times and locations marching neatly forward, equal to where you heard them. He taps the cradle list on his tablet. RF3's status reads offline since 6:03 p.m. It's a system hiccup, the guard says, because he needs the world to obey. It happens. He shines his light up into the racks. Maybe someone came in off the dock while a driver was swapping. Trailers. You all look at the dock. Door down, chain still. His radio ticks. Receiving doors secure. He lowers the beam and pretends not to note that his own breath is visible. You do a walk with them. 3 bodies pretending to be heavier than night. The forklift sits quiet now. Blue light off, seat cold. In aisle 21, the tape lies in a tired loop. In aisle 20, the leaning stack looks straight. In aisle 22, the plastic tails hang still. The building seems to have decided it has shown enough. By the time you clock out, birds are thinking about the sky. You hand Marcus the scanner and he frowns at the log again. We'll scrub it, he says, which is a word for cleaning data, not floors. You nod and say nothing about how the blue light drew a path over something you couldn't see. You don't say that if the forklift had a voice, it would have been the PA's bottle note, telling you to stop and listen right before you followed anyway. On your drive home, you notice how warehouse aisles look like lanes of an empty road if you keep the thought in your head and don't say it out loud. You tell yourself you'll ask to swap shifts. You tell yourself there's nothing to swap from, that nights like this are just long days pretending to be something else. When you sleep, you dream in barcodes and thin blue circles of light that travel ahead of you and always catch two sets of legs crossing a gap where there should only be yours. And the next time you go in, the forklift seat will be warm again. You'll lay your hand there and it will remember the weight of someone who keeps choosing the angle where you can only see their edge. The booth is a glass aquarium with a desk inside it. Fluorescent tubes give everything the color of old paper. The monitors hum, stacked 3 by 3. Each frame is its own little aquarium too. Lobby, elevator bay, loading docks, stairwell, north hall, south hall, roof door, copy room. Coffee goes from hot to bitter in 20 minutes, and yours is 21. The radios sleep until they don't. You tell yourself this is the safest job in the building: doors, cameras, logs, alarms. You watch the place breathe and you keep it breathing. Illusion. Somewhere in the rack a relay clicks. One of the lobby cameras blinks, restabilizes, and the motion box the software draws around movement flickers to life around nothing. Disturbance. You lean closer, fingertips squeaking against the acrylic monitor shield. The square hangs in the middle of the marble like the idea of a person. The mic on that camera feeds a steady HVAC hush, like a seashell. You toggle views. Lobby 1, Lobby 2, Lobby 3. On 2, the motion square jitters left and then holds, as if someone shifted their weight. The elevator dings 2 floors up a polite, throat-clear echo. You radio the rover. Patrol 1. Status. Crackle. Clear on 11, heading to 10, he says, breath audible. Check lobby when you pass the bay, you say, keeping your tone bored. He gives the little double click that means copy, without having to say it. You glance at the glass door to the lobby. From here you can see half the reception desk, a vase with fake greenery, the red LED on the badge reader. It's all still. The camera shows the motion box holding where a person would stand if they were trying. Not to be seen. You tap the time overlay. 01/06/2017. You scrub back 10 seconds, forward 10. On the backward pass, the square stutters backward 2, frame locked to the absence. You zoom digital in a few steps until the pixels show shimmering blocks, like the image is thinking. The C hush in the mic pulls down to a lower note, like a vent slowed. And in that dip, something like breathing rides the audio, fast and shallow for exactly 3 seconds. Evidence. You stand, the swivel chair exhaling behind your knees, and step out of your little aquarium into the larger one of the lobby. The concrete under the mat is cool even through your soles. The lemon cleaner smell the cleaner's favor still hangs in the air, fighting the nighttime metal scent of the revolving doors bearings. The red LED on the badge reader is a tiny, steady pulse. The motion sensor light over the entrance stays asleep. You've learned its range by accident and ritual. There's nobody in it. You hold your breath and listen. What you hear is the building, distant compressors, the faint tick of something contracting and cooling, the phantom ringing in ears starved of noise. Back in the booth, on camera 2, the motion square has slid 2 feet to the right, now perfectly aligned with where you just stood in the lobby a beat ago. Your mouth goes dry. You roll your chair back with your calf and sit without looking, eyes still on the screen. You lift the handset, call up to the other guard on the mezzanine desk. "You seeing this?" You ask and patch him into lobby 2. He curses softly out of habit. "Box is on a ghost," he says. "You want me to walk through?" You want him to, because humans fix human problems. "Yeah," you say. Mezzanine guard crosses camera 2 a minute later. A real body, a real shadow, a suit jacket without a suit. The motion square ignores him completely until he steps through the place where the box sits, and then the box clings to his chest for one frame like a moth that doesn't know glass from light. Then it lets go and slides back to empty floor. Disturbance becomes suspicion. "Weird software," he says on the phone, too casual. "I'll power cycle the encoder after rounds." He's already walking away. You glance to the right-hand stack. Stairwell cam shows concrete serenity. North Hall shows the long carpet with its repeated pattern, unbroken by dirt or feet. Copy room. Your mouth goes drier, shows a square of light and the reflection of a motion sensor's green dot. You realize you hate the shape your face makes in glass. You tuck your chin, trying to not see yourself seeing yourself. The radio whirs, low like a cat purring, then stops. Door sensors blink in a corner of your monitor array. Little green rectangles turning amber when a door opens, back to green when shut. Most nights they read green for hours, a nirvana of things in their place. Now, one amber flare blips without a chirp from the Annunciator sub-basement service door open 00.02 and back to green. You glance at the panel. The Annunciator light never fires. You scroll the sub-basement cam. The picture is stone and fluorescence. A concrete hall with painted stripes down low to warn carts where to be. The hall is empty, but the far light flicks from motion, then the next, then the next. Sequence marching toward the door, exactly like footsteps you cannot attribute. Evidence writes itself. You call the rover again. He's on 10, shoes squeaking in carpet. Swing the sub-basement, you say? Sensor flickered. His sigh pops soft in the mic. Copy. You pin his route on your map. Little breadcrumb triangle creeping toward the freight elevator. On lobby 2, your motion square takes a slow sidestep as if matching a breath. You speak to empty, which is either faith or foolishness. If that's you, you tell the square, stick around. Humor is a tool you carry like the flashlight. Not always. Helpful, sometimes blinding. He calls from the freight. Down, he says, the metal echo of the car washing under his voice. The freight cam shows a rectangle of steel and his black jacket. The doors close and slice him into a reflection. The camera loses signal for one frame when the car moves, always has, and in that cut, the lobby 2 square drifts 3 degrees closer, to the booth door. Your reflection in the booth glass picks that moment to line up with the camera's angle so the square overlays your face for a split second. Your breath fogs the glass and makes a shape with no features. The fog clears. The square has moved on. Dread hook. The freight doors open on sub-basement and the mic there is better than ears, catching the shapes of footsteps and the small swish of jacket fabric. Which door? He asks. Service, West End, you say. He sweeps his light and the camera, burns white for a heartbeat with it. You watch his beam waking sensors ahead of him in polite order. You find you're holding the desk edge too tight. Your palm sticks when you peel it off, and the corian feels like ice. He reaches the West End. Doors shut, he says, hand on the bar. He tugs it. It thunks a sound that travels into your booth. As a small tremor. No play in it. Check the reader, you say. He leans close and the badge reader's LED shows a soft, steady red. No recent swipes, you say, looking at the access log. In the quiet, under that conversation, the lobby mic catches that breathing again, close to the feed. A fast, shallow pull. Accordioned by the camera like whoever's doing it doesn't know how to be recorded. You hit record out of reflex. The file name is a number and a timestamp. You wish it could be. Finally, something. The mezzanine guard calls down. You want me to reseat the encoder? He asks, already bored of the idea. Do it, you say, and the lobby feed goes black for 3 seconds while he pulls and pushes little wires that should be left alone after midnight. When the image returns, the motion square is gone. Your shoulders drop without permission. You've been holding the kind of tension that feels like posture. Illusion flexes again. Machines misbehave. Humans fix them. The night is rational. Stairwell amber blips. Door open 001001, the panel says without sound. North Hall shows nothing. Then the far motion light wakes, then the next. You toggle the tiny speaker on for that camera. At first, all you hear is the mic's hiss and the faint ventilation breath. Then you hear steps. Not an echo of the rovers he's still down in stone, but a soft 1-2, 1-2. Measured, each landing pressing a bit of low end into the mic. Diaphragm that your headphones make into the suggestion of weight. Evidence isn't just seeing, it's how your ribs decide to react. You stand again. Your chair protests in vinyl. You set the handset down, step out, and let the lobby air wrap. Your ears like cold hands cupped around them. The elevator glows with its little floor number, steady and wrong. Nobody called it, but it holds at one like a patient mouth. The red LED on the badge reader blinks once as if nodding to itself. You take 2 steps into the lobby. Your radio whispers to life and whispers right back to sleep. A little ghost of a click like someone else has keyed another channel to not quite say anything. Disturbance feels like interest. On the mezzanine camera, your colleague cusses. "I think I just saw someone at the top landing," he says, voice tight. North stare. Tall. Turn the corner as I looked. You switch to the stair cam. It shows a camera's idea of concrete serenity. "Nothing," you say. "I know," he says. Still. His flashlight beam lashes into the frame a second later, ragged waves over paint and pipe. He breathes hard. "You hearing that?" he asks. The mic answers with its careful hush. "Hearing what?" you ask, but he's already moving. The lobby cam catches you in a slow pan of your head, like you're checking if the ceiling knows your name. The motion square reappears at your shoulder. You step left, it holds. You step right, it doesn't follow, but slides toward the booth door and stops there as if it has found a better vantage. On camera, the square is directly where the glass would show your reflection if the glare were stronger, as if something stood where reflections are built. You take 2 steps toward it, because people go where they shouldn't. The square eases backward a foot, as if economies apply to absences too. You open the booth door and step inside, monitors paling your skin. A printer you almost never use chirps awake with office-bright purpose. Its rollers pull a sheet, then another, then a third. You don't send print jobs, nobody does at this hour. The first page is blank. The second has a smear in one corner toner fuss, nothing more. The third has a still image lobby 2, time-stamped 01.14/03. The camera you've been watching printed itself. In the frame, you stand in the lobby, hand lifted mid-gesture, as if explaining to air. Over your shoulders, a shape you could pass off as artifacting if it didn't have shoulders, and if the motion box in the digital overlay weren't neatly wrapped around where a face would be. The overlay shouldn't print, it's software in your head end. And yet, the mezzanine guard thumps down the stairs and into your frame for real, eyebrows up. "You look white," he says, then sees the page in your hand. He looks from the print to the screen, back to the print. The square on the screen crawls an inch toward the glass, like it's testing how much room there is in that direction. He reaches, without thinking, for the glass between you and the lobby and touches the pane. His finger leaves a little crescent of fog that evaporates. The mic on lobby 2 picks a brisk breath that doesn't belong to either of you, the kind of inhale that happens just before a laugh begins or a word decides not to. Dread stands up close enough to smell metal and cleaner and something damp that has no source. The radio explodes with the rover's voice. "North Hall motion, all the way to the booth," he says, moving fast now, breath chopping. The North Hall camera shows the lights waking in a line toward your aquarium. On lobby 2, the motion square labels the air just inside your booth door. If you turn, there is nothing to see. On the screen, there is. The printer coughs one more page, and against your better judgment, you look. It's a tighter crop your shoulder, the edge of your jaw, the blur of something darker in the glass an inch from where your skin would be if the camera could feel. When the rover clears the corner at speed, he stops dead at the booth threshold, like he hit an invisible current. He doesn't step inside. He doesn't have to. The lobby mic records 3 breaths yours, his, and one that has been close for too long. The monitor's little motion square quivers like a trapped insect and then slides gently out of the frame as if it learned the shape of your room and prefers a different angle. By sunrise, the log will say nothing useful. No forced doors, no badges, no alarms. The mezzanine guard will reseat cables and declare the encoder guiltier than anything with a pulse. The printed frames will look more like glitches in daylight, hand-wavable, throw away. But at 01/14/03, when the building was honest with itself, the camera that has never cared about how you feel showed you something that chose glass over air. You can destroy the print, you can delete the recording, you can tell yourself software, dreams. You will still sit nights in your aquarium with the coffee going bitter and the fluorescent tubes growing a little warmer than the world outside. And sometimes the motion square will appear and stand where a person stands when they're trying not to be. and you will decide again whether to step out of the glass and ask the lobby a question it has been waiting to answer. Hospitals are never quiet. They only change what the noise means. Upstairs, beeps and voices stack into music. Down here, in the service levels, the building speaks in machines, compressors sighing, a fan bearing that chirps every 8th turn, the hum of lights that want to be warmer than they are. You push a supply cart with boxes of saline and tubing toward the elevator that goes to storage. The wheels grumble over a grate. The smell is a hospital clean with the basement's wet concrete. Truth underneath. You tell yourself this is the easiest part of the shift. Down, drop, back up. Illusion. The elevator panel blinks awake when you badge it. The little screen that usually cycles through. L. 1. 2. B. Pauses on something you don't recognize. Video, not B, not T, and lot. A figure with a stubby serif like someone typed the building wrong. Disturbance. You lean in because eyes like to be close to what they don't understand. The call button ring glows, patient and indifferent. You glance at the wall directory out of habit. It lists loading, laundry, storage, engineering. No. B1. Your badge reader chirps green anyway. Inside, the car is stainless steel and lemon, scent cleaner. The mirror above the handrail turning the box into 2 boxes that share a ceiling. You catch your reflection, the band-aid on your knuckle, the shadow under your eyes, and try not to look behind your own shoulder the way people do after too many nights. You press B, and the car answers with a polished little ding. The numbers roll down. 2, 1, L. The car slows as it should, then keeps moving. The display flickers, blinks, settles on. B. Like it decided in the dark between floors that this is now a place. The doors open on air colder than the elevator's own conditioned breath. You don't step out. You let the doors think about, closing. Motion lights in the hall beyond ripple awake in a smooth line. One pool, then the next, heading away from you as if someone just walked in that direction a beat before you arrived. Evidence draws itself in light. The corridor is plain. Painted cinder block, a rolling bin parked at a wall, a yellowed evacuation map with corners that curled when they were young. On the map, a little red dot says, "You are here." And the printed label under the diagram reads, "Basement, B, not BU." Your breath fogs and vanishes. Engineering, you call, because names fix places. Your voice comes back thin. The hall eats it. You thumb the door close button, and the doors take their time, like they're checking with someone. First, the car rises with a feeling you recognize. Stomach lag. A cable whine like a violin played 2 rooms away. The display doesn't show a number until it hits. B. Then, Lee. The doors open onto the service cross corridor you recognize. Laundry carts, a stack of plastic tubs, a hand-lettered sign that says, "Return warming blankets." You exhale a laugh that sounds like it belongs to someone else. You decide not to. Mention B1. You push to storage, roll through the swinging door, log the boxes in the clipboard because the scanner in this department died 2 months ago and isn't haunting anyone but procurement. The clock over the desk says 2:19. Your phone says 2:17. You decide the clock is wrong. You decide a lot of things to make the floor steady. On the way back, the elevator doors open before you press anything, like a host who's been watching through the peephole. The panel awaits instruction. You press Liu for the main corridor. The car obliges, ding, and the numbers climb. At Liu, it stops and keeps humming, a soft drawl like an indecisive breath. The doors don't open. The screen blinks, then one blooms again from nowhere, from a memory the building shouldn't have. The car drops with the smooth authority of a decision made. Disturbance hums under the soles of your shoes. You tell yourself someone is running a diagnostic. You tell yourself you should radio engineering. You don't do either because you don't. Want to say B1 out loud. The doors part and the same cold leans in. The hallway lights ripple awake in the same outward wave. A laminated sign by the door reads, "Authorized personnel only." In the font your hospital uses when it wants to pretend you're listening. There's tape residue under it, as if an older sign once lived there. The smell is different here. Not betadine, not cleaner, something like wet linen that dried hours ago. You pull your cart half a foot into the threshold because your hand does that while your head still decides whether to. Your radio clicks to life on your shoulder and releases a small breath of static that, in another building, would have been a laugh. "Storage," the overnight guard says, tinny. "You good?" You press the side button. "Elevator's acting off," you say, and you taste your own understatement. "Getting a bead option? You guys doing maintenance?" Pause. "We don't have a 2BU, miss," he says, same tone you used for acting off. He taps keys on his end and you imagine cameras cycling. "I've got your car at U-Dune right now," he says. You watch the EB1 display reflect in the mirror and not in his imagination. You lean and peel the evacuation map's corner because you need one thing to behave like paper. It peels and cracks and gives that dry lick noise old lamination has. The diagram underneath is the same one you know. No extra corridor branch, no secret leg. You let the corner fall. Your phone screen wakes from your thumb. You open the elevator log app you didn't know you remembered installing in orientation. The last lines read, U2 1247, B1 door open 002, Dudio, and Do2 1351, B1 door open, Idro 8. The app has no way to know a floor that doesn't exist. Evidence is a bureaucracy that stamps what it's handed. You push the card in far enough to trip the next motion sensor. The light wakes above a door. Marked, Records. In frosted vinyl, the kind of department that got moved upstairs 5 years ago when paper stopped pretending to be king. The door has a badge reader that blinks the slow red of no. You present your badge because people like rituals. The reader chirps and gives you green, then thinks better and drops to red without unlocking. You smile a little, your face doing that small nothing with your mouth that's almost humor, the last trick you trust. Behind you, the elevator doors don't close. They wait like a person who's decided to give you time to change your mind. The radio on your shoulder says the guard's name into your ear and then says yours, like an invocation. "I'm on B," he says. "Camera has you at B." You look at the mirror strip bolted above the elevator handrail. Back in the copy room upstairs, glass showed you what the camera almost caught. Here, the metal gives you a flattened version of yourself and the open hall behind, a little bent. The hallway in the reflection is a foot longer than it is in the world. In that extra foot, something that isn't there stands still. Dread hook pulls gentle as a tide. You edge farther in, and the air dips colder, like someone opened a freezer door nearby and shut it before you looked. A label printer on a rolling desk wakes with an office bright chirp just as your cart's wheel clucks over a tile seam. The printer spits a blank label, waits, prints another with a smear at one corner, like the machine dragged its tongue over the paper. The third prints with text you don't send, text that doesn't come from any app you recognize. Deliver to B1. Storage. You pick it up because hands are traitors. The adhesive is warm as skin. You stick the label to the cart handle because you need to put it somewhere. Down the corridor, a door clicks softly, followed by a wheel squeak you know too well from upstairs. A gurney's little caster with a flat spot. It rolls once, twice, pauses. You take one step, then another, because far fear is worse than near fear. On your right, a wall map of oxygen lines and shutoff valves sports a bubble beneath the plastic sheet. The bubble travels slowly, as if a trapped breath is trying to find an edge. The fluorescent ballast above you buzzes, then gives a hiccup. In that half-second dark, the sound of the gurney moves 3 doors closer without the distance between. Storage, status, the guard says in your ear like he's in your head. "Still with me?" You key the mic. "I'm fine," you lie. "And at..." You don't say the other letter. "Copy," he says, and the radio releases that bottle-blown shh. You first heard in the warehouse PA, the one that sounds like somebody shaping a hush without breath. Callbacks don't feel like callbacks when you're inside them. They feel like the same thing wearing new clothes. You stop at Records and rest your palm on the push bar. Cold blooms from the metal into your bones. The small window in the door shows a dark room with shelving and the gray blue of a monitor asleep. For a blink, the glass acts like the copy room window upstairs did. It holds a double exposure where your shoulder overlaps a darker shoulder that is patient and not yours. You blink, and the darker shoulder belongs to the dark again. The radio scrapes. "I'm coming down," the guard says, and you love him for being a person with legs. You retreat back toward the elevator, which waits with the open-mouthed politeness of a good machine. As you roll the cart, one wheel ticks, 1, 2, 3, like a metronome for decisions. The label you stuck on the handle lifts a corner and flutters against your knuckle. Halfway back, your radio rustles with the mezzanine guard's voice too, the one who reseats cables and calls it fixed. Elevator log shows no trips to Beween. He says, "All standard." You open your mouth to say a simple word and stop, because the elevator's ceiling speaker exhales a tiny static sigh and, for a fraction of a second, shapes a human sound. There. You don't look. Not a whisper, not a word with consonants, just the idea of there like a finger pointing. You don't look where the idea wants you to look. You look at the panel. The B on the display is gone. Bo glows like a promise that everything has names. You step into the car, body angled, cart angled, ready to jab Lou and slap the door close. The doors consider and then come together with no drama. The car rises without pause. The number flicks to Lou, like nothing ever deviated. The doors open to the corridor you trust. Your shoulders drop. When the guard rounds the corner, coffee in hand, the normalcy of his face looks staged and you want to believe in it anyway. "What's up?" he asks. You say, "Panel did a thing." He looks at the panel like it murmured. You tell him, "You saw B1." And he says the word back with his eyebrows. He leans into the car, presses B. Twice, like maybe double is how you get to single. The car goes to B. Floors behave. He shrugs with his whole jaw. "You want me to call engineering?" You tell him no because you hear how your own voice will sound if you try to explain the label on your cart to a man with a clipboard. Back upstairs, in the storeroom, you peel the label off the cart handle to throw it away and it fuses halfway, tearing like a truth you can't cleanly remove. You have to pick the rest off with the edge of your badge, and little hairs of paper remain like residue from something that doesn't mind sticking. The paper you manage to pull free carries a faint toner ghost under the printed line, a fingerprint swirl that is too long for your thumb and not shaped like anyone you know. You slide it into your pocket and tell yourself you're saving it to show someone later. You won't. On your break, you open the elevator log app again. Ligute B1 door, open. Entries are gone, replaced with a single line. U2, Gjordreindin 49, door obstruction, Atirum. You didn't obstruct anything. You remember the stairwell door upstairs that wouldn't shut like a hand was there. Buildings keep their own stories. The people who live inside them just make the footnotes. When you clock out at 6:58, the sky over the parking lot is colorless and giant. You push your empty cart into the bay and the wheel with the tick makes no sound now. You pass the elevator and the mirror above the handrail gives you the thinner version of yourself that all mirrors in hospitals give. For one frame, as you step out of its angle, the glass doubles the corridor behind you, and in that extra foot of world, there's the outline of a gurney rolling. No body, just the angle of motion. You blink, and it's tiles and a scuff mark and a sign that tells blankets where to go. You take the stairs because stairs are honest, even when they're not. On your next shift, you will press BU, and the elevator will go to EQB, and the radio will keep its opinions to itself. You'll tell yourself the building had a hiccup. Illusion. At 2:13, when vents shift and lights decide whether to buzz or hum, you will stand far enough from the panel to see both the display and your reflection at once, and you will try not to learn which one changes first when B appears again, because it will. Buildings repeat themselves the way stories do, with different cast and the same shape. And somewhere between B-Hack and Idling, between what is printed on a directory and what is printed on a label you tore in half, an extra floor will open its doors for exactly as long as you pretend you aren't going to step forward. The building exhales, and the night lets go of your shoulders by degrees. Fluorescents warm a shade. Vending machines fall back to their soft aquarium. And the hallways remember how to be just hallways again. You sit with that quiet, letting your breath match the room, longer in, slower out, until the echo of footsteps becomes only memory, until the blue spin of a safety light is just equipment being. Equipment until an elevator chime is only a chime and not a decision made somewhere below the printed directory. You tell yourself the ordinary wins at sunrise. Keycards beep, doors behave, logs populate with the right lines and none of the wrong ones. If a page in your pocket rustles, it's only paper. If a label clings to a cart, it's only glue. You let these thoughts smooth your pulse, because that's how you go back tomorrow, by filing the impossible under late hour, thin blood, overactive hearing, and by pretending that cameras do not sometimes see around the corner of where you're standing. Outside, the air will smell like wet concrete and tired trees. Tires will hiss across the empty lot. You'll watch your reflection tilt across glass doors, thinner and braver than you felt an hour ago. And when you sleep, if you do, edges will soften. A corridor will be just a path, a booth just a box of light, a stairwell just honest concrete. The mind is kind when it has to be, but buildings keep their own stories. Some nights they tell them to you because you're the one who stayed to listen. And if the next shift finds you walking the long way around a corner or watching the copy room window like it might answer a question you haven't asked, that's all right. Caution is only another word for memory. And if tonight unsettled you, wait until you hear the stories I've saved for next week.